Hi everyone and welcome to another inspirational video. This video is a bit different compared to the other videos. In this video, I'll be sharing an exclusive interview that I had with Tribe FM uh, in December of 2023, where I talk about basically my whole journey in life, my how my life has transformed, the lessons that I learned, the challenges that I went through, and you've probably seen in the thumbnail the life altering stuff that I went through, survived it, and lived to tell the story. So I encourage you to grab a pen and a paper. I'll be unpacking my journey. There's a lot of value and principles in it. So I would recommend that you watch the video right to the very end to capture the different messages and the principles that are underlined in them.
And we're off with, or we're actually kicking off our episode 18 for morning tea. We're slowly winding down with our program for this side, but we will not definitely, or we will not definitely, my goodness, we will definitely be bringing you another amazing Papua New Guinean doing amazing things in their specific field or their field of focus. All right. And for today, we have Edward Isove. But more importantly, I also want to acknowledge the collaboration between Tribe FM and Brian Earls for making this possible, for bringing each of the Papua New Guineans that we have been bringing to you for morning tea. So I'm going to get Brian to say hi very quickly and speak a little bit about, morning tea in itself and the idea behind that. And we'll definitely be bringing Edward on board on the show real soon. So with that being said, hi, Brian. How you doing? How was your morning so far? That's Edward, of course. We've got Brian on this side.
Good
Yeah.
morning, good morning. Thank you, Mo, for that. My morning is going well, thank you. Had a cup of coffee. I should have had a tea this morning, but I chose coffee. I just need a bit of caffeine boost today. But just wanted to quickly touch on, morning tea was an initiative, an idea that started off where I heard so many different stories about amazing Papua New Guineans, and I wanted to give them a platform to allow them to share their stories to a larger reach of people, not just to inspire them, but to change the dialogue of the negativity that we hear in our country, because there is amazing things happening. It's just that we don't hear about it. So I wanted the discussions of them to share their story, their journeys, their pathways in their own sectors to inspire you, to show you that it is possible to create change in your own spaces as well. And that's what Monity is all about, sharing their stories with each and every one of you out there.
That's right. Thank you, Brian, for that. And of course, without further ado, let's bring him on our show this morning. This is Edward Isove. He'll get to tell you more about what he does, but more importantly, a little bit about himself. Yep. And then we'll dive into what he brings to the table here in Papua New Guinea.
Morning, everyone. Firstly, yes, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. My name's Edward Isove. From Gulf, married, wife's from Regal. Down the highway. I've got two children, a boy and a girl. And basically my background is engineering. I took mechanical engineering at University of Technology. And basically that's just a bit about myself.
Yeah, well, Edward, when you actually walked through the door and when we were just having a chat, off the boat, I never actually saw you as a motivational speaker. For those that are actually just joining our discussion this morning, Edward is actually a motivational speaker. An entrepreneur, an author as well, that he'll be taking us through what he will definitely be bringing to the table in terms of those specific things that I've just mentioned there, those titles. But Edward, with that being said, I love that you went on and said, I'm married, I've got two kids, I'm a father. You've acknowledged that yes, you're a father, you're also a partner or a husband, but more importantly, with everything everything that you've got going on, you still, you still persevere to do what you are doing. And, we're going to quickly dive into that here on this side. So for those that are listening in this morning and are not aware of what you actually steer here in PNG, just give us an insight into that. And of course, if anyone has any questions that they'd like to also ask, please feel free to join us on our live stream right now. We're live on Facebook, and you can at least have your say as well if you'd like to ask Edward any questions. But yeah, Edward, just take us through that as well.
Yeah, okay. So a few years ago, I resigned from my formal employment. I was working with Puma Energy back then. And it was during that time that my wife took up scholarships in Australia. So that was the time that I felt that passion that was within me to make a difference. And going back to my starting journey, maybe I'll just talk about just in detail about the journey and how it all started.
Yes.
That's where everything started,
That's
basically,
right.
for me.
Yeah.
So back then I was doing my school at Gordon Secondary during high school during that time. It was late 1990s, early 2000 during that time. So something happened during high school. I was doing year 10, and it was during those school holiday period where I decided I wanted to go home back to the village. And village for me is in Gulf, a couple of hours drive down. So I went down, and then a day before that I started vomiting blood. Small tiny chunks of blood. I didn't really think too much. Then I went down the highway, going all the way down, and then the night that I arrived in the village, I started coughing lots and lots of blood. And I remember vividly, I was in this mosquito net in the village, Kerma style, Kerma mat, and all around me was just chunks of blood. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is like, I'm literally gonna die right now. And I thought to myself, thoughts began to flash through my mind, and I was like, what have I achieved in my life? Will I ever get married? So many things were rushing through my mind, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. This is it for me. And then out of nowhere, I made this prayer. I reached out to God, through my helplessness. And I said, God, if you are there, please give me another chance. Give me another hope at life, and I will give it back to you. And then I remember few hours through the night after that, early hours of the morning, I literally passed out, like unconscious. And when I woke up, I was still blurry. I just saw glimpses. I saw myself in a wheelbarrow being pushed to the nearest hospital, and that was in Kerma. And then they stabilized me. And then later, Mom and Dad came down emergency run and had to take me up to Mosby. And later I realized I found out that I had contracted TB of the lungs, and I almost died from it. And I guess the main message that I want to encourage those that are listening is, even after that, near that experience, I discovered a sense of purpose for my life. I was like, look, there's got to be more to it than this. Because when you're in your near-death experience, you realize that, this is it. So it was like a paradigm shift for me. So after that, I committed myself to God, and I went on the journey of self-discovery. And early, thank God, early I discovered a sense of purpose for my life. And that particular decision that I made changed the entire course of my destiny altogether. I became disciplined. I knew I had a big vision for my life. I knew I needed to go all the way, so I chose my friends wisely. I read the books that pertained to the vision that was on my life. So I'm encouraging young people, discover a sense of purpose and destiny for your life early. And then you're going to marry the right person as well. That's what happened to me. I married someone who supported the vision, and now that has led to the journey. So I didn't have a proper upbringing. My dad was alcoholic. I'm sure others experience the same as well. But, that's the philosophy that I had. It's not where you were born, but it's who you become. So it's the choices that you make in life. And for me, it was the choices that I made. I created my own internal environment through my own belief system. And then that brought me all the way. I was the only one that made it to university. And then I worked through Pogara, through all that, and then now going back to the transitional period. I left a highly paid engineering job. I was the senior project engineer for Puma Energy. I managed a lot of projects around the country, massive million kina projects. And what really pushed me out of my job was my purpose. Because I knew that my job was limiting my potential to reach out to people and to make a difference. So I want to encourage everyone listening, find a sense of purpose for your life and you'll never go wrong.
Wow, you know, that in itself is like, you know, the entire thing already. Like, okay, that's it. This is episode 17. And we're wrapping up. But, you know, Edward, I really have to say that, you know, when you shared that near-death experience, the thing that sort of struck a chord in me was that a lot of us, we have those near-death experiences, and it doesn't have to involve us, you know, coughing out blood or having, being diagnosed with a very severe case of TB, or being at the most non-ideal location and finding ourselves in a situation that we wouldn't want to be in. But all of us have those moments where we're either, we can either choose to make or break. We can either choose to use this as a foundation, a stepping stool to at least make our footprint, become more solid, and push forward. And that's what I've actually taken away from what you just shared there. And when you said you left your job after some years, a very comfy job, I might add, something that always had met everything that you needed, and then to go into what you are doing now, Inspire Leaders, is just something that you're also doing on top of everything else that you're doing. Bring to light a couple more that you're working on that a lot of us need to know, and then we can dive into, of course, what Inspire Leaders is. Also, you've also written a book, as I've mentioned, for our viewers and our listeners. Edward is also an author, and he can talk about that as well. But just so that they're aware of what you do on a regular now, apart from going about and running. I believe you run courses as well. So you can just bring to light for our listeners and our viewers some of the things that you work on, and then we can dive into, of course, all of what you can unpack for us here on Tribe FM. Thanks so much, Edwin.
Okay, so Inspire Leaders is my business. I registered with IPA. So basically, it's from that passion of nation building a nation. So I have 3 mottos: think, believe, and become. So those are the 3 mottos that core of the business. So think has to do with a mindset. So if you look at us society right now, we are a product of our mindset. We are a product of the environment that we grow up in. And a lot of people grow up in a very disadvantaged environment, challenging environments. And that tends to shape their perception and their view and their reality of how they go about true life. So really the core of the message here is having to think in a different way so that you can produce a different result. Okay, so I'm sure some are listening right now and will be like, oh wow, that's new, I haven't heard of this before. So I would liken it to like a seed, When you have a seed, you plant it in the right environment, and then it grows to become a tree, and then it produces a fruit. So our life is like that. We have so much potential, we have so much dreams, but we are placed in the wrong environment. We are planted in the wrong environment. So I always encourage people that the environment is more powerful than the seed. You can have great dreams, you can have great potential, but if you hang around with the wrong people, in the wrong environment, it'll destroy you. So that's the core of what we do. So we run 3 things. One is on mindset. So I run through a lot of sessions on mindset, basically getting people into an environment where it challenges them. It really opens up their eyes or their lens to see life in a different way, and put them in an environment where they themselves can cultivate the life that they desire. So we are all born great, but we must become great. And becoming is a process of you being intentional. Okay, so we talk about mindset, and we go in detail on detailed principles such as the power of thoughts, beliefs, and that's where this book came about. I'll talk more about it later. So mindset, and number 2 is on leadership. Leadership is so vital and fundamental in the nation. And you look at our nation, the type of leadership that we have, well, may not be the kind of leadership that we expect. So leadership to me is becoming the best version of yourself, capturing a vision for your life, and then bringing it out and having everyone come on board, and then just having a massive impact and change in the nation. So leadership is at the core, and we focus more on the fundamental principles of purpose, vision, character, and all those ethical values that are really key. And we see leadership, we think leadership is like a title, you have a big home, you have so many things, possessions. We define leadership as that, or someone who has massive influence, but really leadership is not all about that.
Yeah.
I believe leadership is you becoming the best version of yourself and serving your gift and your passion to the world. And one of the great leaders that I draw inspiration from is Jesus Christ himself. He came and he gave himself as a ransom for many. So leadership is about servanthood. It's about serving yourself, but not to be served. That's the catch there. So I believe everyone has great potential. We are all great leaders in our own right, and we can make a big difference. And the number 3 thing is potential. So everyone has great potential to become great. And for those of you listening right now, you could be a great musician, you could be a great author, you could be a great speaker, businessman.
Yeah.
But you don't even realize it yet because you're in the wrong environment, you haven't really seen it yourself. So until you see it, you will never leave it. Okay, so I would encourage you to get into that space where you really delve into yourself, find out who you are, find out what are your passions. We have some great entrepreneurs like mothers who went into the sewing business, and then they're just prospering, they're thriving because that's what they love, that's their passion. So I encourage you to find your passion, find your niche, and make a difference. And that's what Inspire Leaders is all about. We're about creating the environment, the platform where you can become the best you can be.
That's right. Great stuff there. And we've got a couple people here, Edward.
Oh, sure.
We've got Balana saying good morning to you. We've got TK saying blessed morning, Mo. And we've got Jonah. Jonah's actually watching all the way from Japan this morning. And Jonah says, good to see Brother Edward Isove on air. A very inspirational speaker for many young people. And that's true. When we actually said hello to each other, that was the first time we actually said hello. And met each other. Yeah. But when we walked in here and we sat down and we were just, unraveling through what you actually do and what you're working on, I felt a sense of, I felt intrigued by what you were doing, but not only intrigued, I felt inspired, and I hope that you are an inspiration to not only myself, but to everyone that's watching and listening to our conversation right now. Because it's very rare for us to, and like you said, we measure our leaders according to the materialistic gain. And that's not at all, that's not at all what a leader should also bring to the table. Maybe if that's added on top of that, great. But a leader is, as you've mentioned, and as Lucy as well has mentioned, young Lucy Napitalai was one of our guests last week. She made a mention that, and her quote here was the reason why she was driven by it. She said that just like the trees are there to provide shade, just like the sun is there to, give us the source of energy and all of that. So, so are we here to serve each other. We are here to serve, to be of service to others. I know I'm paraphrasing here, Brian, but, it just really, it really struck a chord in me. And I say it struck a chord in me because every time we have a session with either, and for now it's with you, Edward, every time I have a session with one of yous, I go back home having reanalyze everything in my life just by having the discussions with you. And I hope that is the same with you as well. For those that are actually viewing and listening right now, I hope you actually take away so much more from these discussions, and you not only get inspired, but you look deep within, and you also find out where your purpose is, which was something that you really talked about, which I love. And I just would, if you don't mind, just taking us through that mindset or that mentality that you had, because it's easy to forget your purpose, like you mentioned, when you have a job that's already meeting all your needs.
Sure.
And then on top of that, your daily struggles that you need to take into consideration. What are some of the struggles that you had to go through to now to be comfortable with what you're doing now, and to know that this is it, this is really what you're going to be bringing to the table up until whenever you feel fit to actually, usher that on to the next leader that you see fit to carry on.
Yeah, I mean, my journey hasn't been easy. Like, as I shared earlier, like I was brought up in a very toxic environment, and for me to discover a sense of purpose early for me was life-changing. And a lot of challenges that I went through. One was just a few years ago, I also lost my brother as well. Through an illness, he was in hospital for a few months, and then he passed away while I was in Brisbane. So it was very challenging, and just to put things in perspective as well, I didn't have TB for the first time, but I had also the second time as well when I was working in Singapore through a secondment program with Puma. I was diagnosed with TB as well, and it was the lymph node. They call it the lymph node of the neck. And I mean, so many challenges. They had to get a needle and then just to prick it all out, like mucus and all this. So. And then some of the challenges as well. I had 2 car accidents in my entire life, yes. One was in Goroka, which I plunged into the drain. So through it all, I had a sense of, those challenges were more or less stepping stones. They were building me to become the person that I am today. And it's through the different challenges I can liken my story to like Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was a young man. He had a dream to become someone great one day. But if you look at Joseph's journey also, he went through different challenges. He was sold by his brothers. He was accused by Potiphar's wife. And through all those challenges, he didn't even complain. He didn't even, divert from his course, because he saw a dream already. He had a vision of who he was going to be. So if you have a sense of vision and a dream for your life, everything that you're going through in life is basically building you up, even the negative things. So that's how the mindset and the shift happens. So you see challenges as stepping stones to build you up to become the person that you want to be. So it's really about becoming the person that you want to be. So I see challenges as that. I don't see anything as a problem. I see it as opportunities. So again, I'm re-emphasizing again the importance of having a sense of purpose, because when you know where you're going, you know which roads won't take you there, and you know who you can connect with to take you there. So that's why it's important to really capture a sense of vision for your life, and that's gonna determine everything that you do, even the friends that you hang out with.
Wow, you were just, listing out your challenges, and I felt like, halfway through I would have given up. And it's amazing to hear that, you've definitely taken this on board, and it's lovely that you've also mentioned the story of Joseph, because yes, I mean, when we grew up, we were all introduced to, the Bible stories that we have, but in itself, they're not only just stories, they're values that we've been sharing to us, that were shared to us by our parents. If not by our parents, then the church, Sunday school, and all of that. But in that, you've made mention something very, very vital there that I've picked out from your. You just highlighting what you've gone through, and that is, of course, to just consistently deliver on how you're going to come out and reach that purpose that you wanted to accomplish. And I believe that that is the overall message that you've actually shared here, is that through those challenges, you've been diagnosed again with TB. TB is also not new to me. My family is known to have TB. I don't know for what reason, but it was definitely my grandmother, my mother, and us. It was just like that. Our family is aware with it. We're acquainted with TB, so it's just not something that you can just sort of brush aside. It's an illness that just really deters all of your immune system down, and the drugs that you take again to fight that is just crazy. 6 months.
So for me, it was 1 year, twice.
Yeah. Terrible stuff. And now, you know what, Edward, they actually have like better drugs. They're so small.
Okay, sure.
They're
That's good. I remember taking like about 10 or 12 drugs per day.
Yeah, and they look like little
capsules.
The chewy gums that we have. Yeah, they look like that, and we had to take about 11 or 10 of those. They were not nice. Yeah. They're the reason why I don't like taking medication anymore. But we're straying. But when we come back on the other side, we'll take a quick break. All right, just a short one, and we'll come back on the other side, and we'll dive into his journey in regarding his book that he's written. Okay, so that's what we got coming up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere. All right, I love the contents of the book. I've actually just done like a quick flip through. And I love it. So yes, stick around. Don't you go anywhere. Straight after this short messages, we'll be back on the other side with our discussion. All right, right here on Tribe 92 FM. This is Morning Tea, episode 17. And for today, we're featuring the man himself, Edward Isove. That's right, we're keeping it real on this side. As I've mentioned, this is episode 17 of Morning Tea in collaboration with Brian Earls, a business development and entrepreneur advocate, okay? And he's actually partnered with Tribe FM here for us to bring to you, people, of the likes of Edward Isove and many others that we have featured here on Morning Tea. And with that being said, we'll bring Edward back on the show here to talk more about his journey when it comes to his book that he's written for us. Edward, I'm excited for you to take us through with the book that you have written for us. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. The book I have here, if you can see, it's titled The Incredible Human Mind. Subtitle: There is a certain way of thinking that produces a certain result. Okay, the journey of the book started at Unitech. I'm a believer of the Lord, so I remember one morning after one of my morning prayers, I was coming back to my room, and then I just had like an audible voice, like out of nowhere, I just had it. It was like, it said, write a book about the mind. I was like, who is this? What's going on? I'm doing my final year. I knew it was the Lord speaking to me personally.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is completely different to what I envisioned for my life. So anyway, the journey began, and then I started getting into it. Started putting my chapters, everything together, and then when I started writing, I felt like this is me. I don't know how to say it, but I felt like this is me. This is me being me, writing this book. So when I wrote it, like things came out naturally. The thoughts just flowed. It was like it's been there all this time. That's how I felt. I just needed to bring it out. So that's how I started. And throughout my journey, career, like working at Pogora for 6 years, and then with Puma Energy, I started learning the principles of life and basically putting this together. So I have about like 12 diaries, literally, for each year. How many years of my whole career I have diaries, and I used to write all my thoughts in there. And each thought I used to expound on it and then capture it, go back home, and then put it in the book. So I started doing that for that whole period of my career, and then working with Puma, and then eventually in couple of years ago, published a book. So that book is a culmination of my whole journey. It took 13 years, 13, to compile this book. Why?
Wow.
Because I wanted to apply those principles personally in my life. And when I want people to read, not to just get knowledge, but to be transformed by what they're reading. Real life practical knowledge. I share all my experiences in here. And a couple of chapters here, like the power of thoughts, power of words, belief system, the way you're wired and framed to think is so powerful, the subconscious mind. I know it's so technical, but this book is so simple. I put it in simple words that you can really understand: mind management, creative visualization, purpose, spiritual intelligence, potential. So this book is really a book of self-discovery. So once you pick up the book, once you read it, it's like you are reading into your own life and putting things into perspective of where you are, because they bring out the different principles, and then it really reflects you as a person and where you are in your journey as well, so you can realign and readjust. So this book is sold at Unity Mall, Shop 42, for 150 kina. There's few copies there, so hurry while stocks last. Grab a copy. I guarantee you, there's so many testimonies of this book. There's one brother who bought this book. He's a SDA. They went for outreach in one of the prison cells, and there was an inmate there who saw him with the book, and he was really interested. And he's like, please, can I read this book? This book looks interesting to me. So he got a book, and then he gave him, and he started reading that book. And after some weeks had passed, the inmate wrote a letter to that person and outlining the changes that were happening to his life. It's like, I read this book and my mind has shifted, and now I'm seeing life in a different way, and thank you for bringing this book. And there's a lot more stories around this book as well. It's really life-changing, and it's one of those tools for personal development and a must-read for everyone. Yeah.
And it's not only because you've written this, but it's mainly, and I have to say this, to all our listeners and our viewers, I was just skimming through. You allowed me to skim through, and when I was going through, these are things that we would rarely talk about, with ourselves. We won't acknowledge. We will never acknowledge. Individually go out and personally go into our little quarters. And when I say that, I'm talking about that, just going and reflecting on how this areas in our life will impact us. And you've done the homework for us. See, that's the thing. You've done the homework for us, and over a span of 13 years, put together this book. That just shows that it wasn't just written all for, whatever. It was, you've taken the time to at least go through chapter by chapter to allow us to sit here now and go through that book. Like, I'm a bookworm, so I read books like that in like half a day. It will definitely, the enlightenment that you're bringing to us is that you've done the homework, and you're adding value to us all in that cost itself. But it just really does, the value of your life afterwards is going to shift, and I believe that. I was going through your content, and that's why I asked you. I was just saying, to myself, like, where on earth was this book? Because it's very rare for you to have someone who's just intentional with what they want to do in terms of leadership and inspiring. And I meant when I said intentional, for our viewers and our listeners, is that you have no interest of having anything to gain for. It's just there for that particular reason, is to serve and to also allow young people to not squirm and try to find their campus or their compass, but you've gone through life and you've done the homework for us, and I just want to
let me just share on that one. Like, my vision is to have a leadership hub center, a center where I want to be the number one leadership provider in the nation. That's my vision. So I have a 6-phase development approach, if I can share.
Yeah.
So there are different human development approaches. So we're looking at the family level. So you have the foundational family level, where you build the right values and principles. Then you have the students, you have the primary students. That's one level that we focus much of our programs on, student empowerment programs. So you want to bring this message into the student levels, and you have the tertiary level. This year alone, I don't know how many sessions I did for UPNG and Unitech on the student empowerment sessions. And thank you to Korea Trackers. We also partners with them. We're running sessions as well. I did also a session for Gulf, the students in Gulf, and this is like the first kind of session for someone to come down
Yeah.
and speak to the students to empower and challenge them. Like they've never had someone like that, and you know, for me to go down there in collaboration with PNG Gulf Association in Queensland, that was where I got connected as well. So they sponsored the event. So I went down and then had this session, and like, you know, it was life transforming for them, you know, someone to go back with that vast amount of experience and to be humble enough to sit in a classroom with them for 2 days and to run through this. Like, they were so enlightened. You could see their faces beaming with light, focusing on the business arena as well. So this year I ran a 6 months coaching and mentoring program. I pioneered one. So every month I go through Zoom sessions. I bring in key speakers on specialized areas. They come in and they talk on key areas, on personal development papers, or different areas to really build the human resource in the business circle. And the other area I'm targeting as well is the youth, and that's big.
Yeah.
I've wrote a youth policy. I passed it to the National Youth Development. It's with them. I'm hoping that I can get more partners on board to run some of the youth programs that we have. Because let me tell you that youths, they have so much potential, but because they have been victims of circumstances, family upbringing situations, and they're just being there, they're not being productive. But if you can bring them in a setting where you give them a sense of purpose and a sense of identity, we have learned, we have so many things there, there's so many opportunities that are there, you know, for them to be resourceful. So it's all about opening their eyes, opening their mindset, and you know, it's like an axe, you know, you sharpen the axe so sharp then you can cut things quickly, you know. So it's like, you know, they're like that. They need to be sharpened, they need to be refined, they need to be worked on a bit, and then they'll find their edge in the world. So we're targeting that, and we're also looking at one important one, the veterans, those retirees. They have so much experience already. And we need to create the avenue where they're sharing that knowledge to the next generation and building them up. So we're not starting from scratch. So these are all the developmental arenas or phases that I'm looking at, so that we can have different programs to come in. And education is definitely a big one for me. Because I believe the young people need to be nurtured properly with the right values and the right beliefs. Because, you know, the good book, the Bible says so well, train up a child in the way that he should go, and in future he will not depart from it. So if we can build the young generation right with the right values, the right principles, then in the next 20, 30 years, this whole nation is going to be changed, because we have cultivated a culture, we have cultivated a set of values that is propagating through people, through generations. So the key word here is being systematic. So we need to be systematic in our approach. We need to make our presence known, whether it's on air or whether it's through seminars or whether it's through the education system. We need to be in there, because you cannot change something that you constantly avoid.
Wow. And again, I'm going to say, like, you know, every time, you know, when you actually share something, I take a sit back and I feel like I'm in one of your seminars, and I'm just listening, and I really love what you're sharing, and I hope we can at least have more partnerships. So if you're listening right now, if you're watching right now, and you'd like to partner with Edward will give us the details on how you can contact him and his team for any collaborations in the future, which brings us to our next part of our discussion, which is, of course, what we can look forward to come 2024.
Whoa,
I know
yes.
you've touched base on that, but for Inspire Leaders and yourself, what would you bring to the table for 2024 for all of us to look forward to?
Sure. 2024 is an exciting year for me. I'm actually working on another book. I won't spill the beans, but I'm writing another book, and it's a very powerful book, and I hope it'll really bring out clarity into where the nation is, especially for Papua New Guineans. So that's something that I'm looking forward to next year. I guess another arena I'm looking at is getting more into the business space. So if you're watching, if you're listening, if you want to connect with me, you can do so. I'm on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, our Facebook page is Inspire Leaders, or you can contact me on email, which is info@inspireleaders.net, And yeah, you can contact me through those mediums as well. So yeah, so that's really about getting more into the marketplace, more collaborations. So this year we have had collaborations with Korea Trackers, which is they do internship for university students.
Yeah.
So we've done that for Unitech and UPNG. We've had collaborations with PNG Gulf Association. So we're actually doing community work as well. So last year we went to Gulf donating some medical equipment and supplies to the facilities there. So the partners in Brisbane, they collect all the stuff that are there, and then they send them to containers, and like I'm the middleman here, going out and then bringing those changes as well. We're looking at library projects as well. So when I was in Brisbane again, it's amazing when you go to places and you meet different people, different connections, and they become like lifelong partners.
Yeah.
So I met Books for PNG, wonderful group of people, Heather and the team there, so connected with them. So I'm looking at library projects as well. And also I'm looking at merchandising for the business itself. So I've written lots and so many quotes. So I'm like, how do I bring them out accessible to a lot of people? So it's like merchandising, okay? So like through shirts, we'll print shirts and then we'll have a quote at the back somewhere. So, when someone buys, they read, they'll be like, okay, I didn't. So that's how we want to get out there into the marketplace, be our own unique brand. We don't want to copy other people. We want to be unique in what we do. So in my space, through leadership and through the different seminars, I guess that's more what we want to do. We want to promote our brand, and more importantly, we want to promote the message itself, the message of transformation, the message that, you are somebody great. If you can believe in yourself, you can go places, you can do something great and big in your life.
Oh, thank you so much, Edward. You are truly an inspiration. Thanks to, of course, Brian for allowing us to have Edward here and organizing all of this. It's not easy to find people like you, but he has a knack for spotting one from a mile away. But thank you again, Edward, for saying what you had to say here on Tribe 92 FM. If there is anything else that you would like to leave on the table before we wrap things up, your last statements or anything that you'd like to share, taking into consideration the season that we're in, and your lasting impression that you'd like to leave with our listeners and our viewers to wrap up our discussion.
Yeah, look, if there's any message that I leave with you all, again, I'm going to echo what I said. It's a sense of purpose, because everyone was born with a sense of purpose.
Wow, those are some powerful principles, truths, and life lessons that we all can learn from my journey. Given the value that is in this video, I would like you to react to this video, give a like, and comment. Let me know your thoughts about the video, your journey as well. I'd like to hear from you. I know every person's journey is different, and we all go through life going through different challenges as well. So I'd like to hear from you as well. If you've watched the entire video right to the very end, you'll notice a common theme and a message that I spoke a lot on, and that is purpose. I believe everyone was born with a unique purpose to fulfill here on earth. So if you want to know more about your purpose, I would recommend that you watch this video, and I hope you're inspired. I hope you're blessed, and be the best that you can be. Thank you, and I'll see you again on another exciting video.